Hi, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Addition and Subtraction of Fractions, Lesson 8. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to add and subtract fractions where the denominators share a common multiple. In today's lesson, we'll look at a mix of problems like that, but we'll also look at a lot of fractions who do not share. You won't see really easily that they share common multiple, but we'll just deal with fractions with different denominators. Remember to like the video, share the video with those you think would benefit, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you will be notified. By doing so, you help us grow our mission to provide valuable maths education to children around the world, regardless of their economic circumstance. Thank you. I would like you to pause the video and answer the retrieval practice questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So here we're asked to shade the grids to represent the fractions. So you can see the grid is divided into 4 columns. So if we shade a part of that, that is a quarter. Now remember, we can shade any of them that would still satisfy the answer. Here, 1/3, we can see that we have 3 rows. So if we shade one row, that satisfies the answer. We can shade any rows that would still satisfy the answer. Well, if we require to add 3/4 plus 3/10 plus 4/10, we'll have 7/10. The denominators are the same. We can simply just add the numerators and the denominator will stay the same. That is what we've learned so far when we worked with adding fractions. Now, what is the lowest common multiple of 3 and 9? It is simply doing your 3 times table and your 9 times table. The lowest number that you see, the very first number that you see in both times table is the lowest common multiple. If we're asked to use the grids to show that a quarter plus a third is equal to 7/12, how do we show that? Well, a quarter there, we can see that if we look at the diagram, we will see that it's actually 3/12. And we can see that a third is actually 4/12. So when we add them, you can see that it's 7/12. You can see that 7 parts out of 12 parts are shaded. But why do you think this particular grid was chosen? Well, you may have answered correctly. It's because 4 and 3, their common multiple, their lowest common multiple is 12. So we're going to be using that knowledge of having the lowest common multiple of the denominators because that will help us answer the question. So when we know what the lowest common multiple is, we can use the method that I used in our previous lesson. So you can go and check that lesson if you haven't watched it, by making one of the denominators equivalent or equal to the other denominator. So in this case, we're going to change the denominator that is 2/3. So to do that, we have to multiply it by 3. But remember, for a fraction, whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do it to the numerator. So 2/3 becomes 6/9. And so if we add 2/9 to 6/9, we'll have 8/9 as our answer. What about this one? What is the common multiple of 8 and 3? Well, if you know your times table really well, that's 24. Now, notice how we got the common multiple, the lowest common multiple. We simply multiply the denominator. Take note that this works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time. So don't quote me that I said you should always multiply the denominator. It doesn't always work all the time to find the lowest common multiple, but it works this time, so we will use it. Now, to change 1/8 so that the denominator becomes 24, we'll have to multiply 8 by 3, But remember, whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do the same to the numerator. So we need to multiply the numerator by 3. So now 1/8 as a fraction has an equivalent fraction, which is 3/24. And then 2/3 as a fraction has its equivalent fraction, 16/24. What is our aim? Our aim is to make the denominators have 24 there, which is the lowest common multiple of 8 and 3. Now we can simply add the numerator. So 3/24 plus 6/24, it will be 19/24. What about this one? Did you notice that if we try to use the method that we used before, which is to multiply the denominators, we're not going to get the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6? Of course, because 4 times 6 is 24, but we know that the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6 is 12. So we cannot use that method here. So here is why it is important that you know your times table and you know the different methods that we have used in this lesson, which has helped us. So here, we're going to change, 3/4 to its equivalent fraction so that its denominator should be 12, which is the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6. Now we have 9/12, and then we have 2/12, because we need to change 1/6 to its equivalent fraction so that its denominator should be 12. Now we can do our subtraction, which is 9/12 minus 2/12, which will be 7/12. It's now time for you to apply what you've learned to do some practice. So pause the video and answer questions 1 and 2 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 1 and 2, here are the answers. So here you're asked to shade the grids to represent the fractions. Okay, by now you can see that we have 3 rows. So when you're asked to shade 2/3, just shade 2 rows. Here you can see you have 8 columns. So when you're asked to shade 1/8, you shade 1 column. Here you're asked to use the grid to show that 2/3 plus 1/8 is 19/24. You have 24 grids, 24 squares. So you can, shade 19 out of the 24. Okay, that's all you've got to do. Next, why do you think this particular size grid was chosen? Don't forget, the reason is because 3 and 8 have 24 as their lowest common multiple. Here, question 2. Annie is working out 1/5 plus 1/2, a half. She uses bar models. Okay, this is what Annie did. Divide each bar into tenths and work out the answer to the question. Here is what she got. Okay, so that should be, the answer. Have you noticed that the denominator is 10, which is the lowest common multiple of 5 and 2? Pause the video and answer questions 3 and 4 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 3 and 4, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here, Tommy is calculating 1/5 plus 5/8. Here are his workings. So Tommy quickly, Tommy quickly multiplied 5 by 8 to say the lowest common multiple of 5 and 8 is 40. Of course, we agree with Tommy because the lowest common multiple of 8 and 5 is 40. So his method is correct. Next, we're asked to work out these calculations. So I'm going to just, and here are the answers for question 4. So you had this question 4 to do here. So here are the answers. So I'll just discuss quickly the solution of what we did. So here you can see that the lowest common multiple of 2 and 4 is 2. So here, and you can also see that this, is connected to our previous lesson where these numbers have shared common multiple. Okay, it's really obvious. Okay, so we'll multiply that by 2. So that will now be 1 plus 2, which will be 3. Here, you multiply, the common multiple is 12. So you multiply that by 3. and multiply that by 4. So this will now be 3 over 12 add 4 over 12, which is 7 over 12. Here, the common multiple is still 12, so we'll multiply that by 3, and we'll multiply this by 4. So this becomes 3 over 12 plus 8 over 12. 3 plus 8 is 11. Here, our common multiple will be 20, so we'll multiply that by 5. We'll multiply that by 4. Here, this will be 5 over 20, add 8 over 20, which gives us 13 over 20. Here, the common multiple is, lowest common multiple is 12, so we'll multiply that by 3. Same that by 3. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do it to the numerator. That by 2, and that by 2. So now you have 9 over 12, add 2 over 12, which will give us 11 over 12. Here, our common multiple, lowest common multiple will be 36. So we'll multiply this by 9. We'll multiply this by 9 as well. We'll multiply this by 4 and that by 4. So we'll have 27 over 36. And then we add 8 over 36. 27 add 8 is 35. Pause the video and answer question 5 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 5, here are the answers. Here you are asked to work out the subtractions. So again, remember how to use, your lowest common multiple. So the common multiple should be 12. So here you have to multiply by 3 to make it 12. You do the same to the numerator. Here you multiply by 4. You multiply by 4. So now 3/4, the equivalent fraction of 3/4 is 9/12 minus the equivalent fraction of 2/3 is 8/12. Now 9 minus 8 is 1, so you have 1/12. Here, the equivalent fraction is 30. The lowest common multiple of 10 and 3 is 30. So you have to multiply that by 10. That's by 10. Okay. Now you have, this should be multiplied by 3 and this by 3. So you have 27 minus 20 because the denominators will be 30. 27 minus 27 minus 20, which is 7 over 30. Here, the lowest common multiple of 9 and 6, you can see is 18. So we'll multiply that by 2, that by 2 as well, that one by 3, and that by 3. Now we have 16 over 18 minus 15 over 18. 16 minus 15 is 1, so our answer is 1 over 18. Here, the lowest common multiple is 24, so we'll multiply that by 3, and we'll multiply that by 8. So now this becomes 21 over 24 minus 16 over 24. 21 minus 16 is 5, so our answer will be 5 over 24. Okay. If we have these cards, if we asked which two fractions add together to give 31 over 33, so this is for the second part of our lesson, okay, by the way. How do we answer this question? Well, we cannot just start working with all the cards because we can quickly check to see which of the fractions have denominators that are factors of 33. And we can quickly see that these are the fractions. So if we use these fractions, We can actually check to see that it will give us 31 over 33 by multiplying that one by 3, which will give us 19 over 24. So if we multiply this by 3, that will give us 33. That will give us 9. If we multiply this by 11, that will give us 33. And that will give us 22. 9 plus 22 will give us, yes. So if we add them, we'll get 19, okay? 31 over, okay? 9 plus 22 will give us 31 over 33. This one, if we're asked which two fractions add together to give us 19 over 24, well, you can see that we have more than two possibilities. So we have 1/8, 1/6, and 2/3. Now, if we try to use 1/8 and 1/6, we can see that these are really small fractions. They may not necessarily add to give us 19 over 24. Why? Because 19 over 24 is more than a half. We know that a half is 12 over 24. So we know straight away not to use these two. So let's try 1/8 and 2/3. Now, if we make them equivalent, if we use the equivalent fractions such that the denominator is 24, we can simply multiply 8 by 3 to get 24, which will give us 3 over 24. And then we can multiply 3 by 8 to change that to its equivalent fraction, 16 over 24. Now that gives us 19. When we add 3 and 16, that gives us 19 over 24. Here is another example. How would we work out these calculations? I want you to think, do you really think the brackets are necessary? Well, not really, because what we really aim to do is to make sure we add the fractions that share the same denominator or have the same denominator. And that should be rearranged like this. And we can rearrange that like that. Have you noticed that 13 and 52 is a multiple of 13? So, and have you also noticed that if we add 7 to 5, we'll have 12. So 12 over 12, which is a whole. Okay? So these two is 12 over 12, which is a whole. Right? Now we want to subtract 3 over 13 from a whole and also 3 over 52. But notice that 52 is a multiple. Okay? So to multiply 13 to make it 52, we have to multiply by 4. Okay? So that way we create the equivalent fraction of 3/13, which has a denominator of 52. Now, remember in our previous lesson where we said if you are adding or subtracting fractions from integers, of which this one is, it's a whole number, that integer takes a different meaning every time depending on the fraction you're working with. So in this case, this whole is actually 52 over 52 because we're trying to subtract fractions from it that have the denominator 52. So that means 52 minus 12 over 52 and also minus 3 over 52. Now, it's a bit like subtracting 15 from 52 because to subtract 12 and to subtract 3 is like subtracting 15. And that should give you 52 minus 15 over 52, which is 37 over 52. It's now time for you to practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer questions 6 and 7 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 6 and 7, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 6, you were asked, here are 4 fractions. Which 2 fractions add together to give 49 over 99? Well, again, you have to pick the fractions you think have 99 as their multiples. And you can see it's this one, 3 11s and 2 9s. These ones. Here you're asked which two fractions add together to give 23 over 36. Well, you have more options now because 36 is a multiple of 9, okay? And you also have 12. So 9, these two will definitely add to give you that result. Next, you were asked to work out 1 minus 1/5 minus 1/12. Now, have you noticed that the common multiple, lowest common multiple of 5 and 12 is 60? So this whole number you see here will take a different meaning. Will it take? It will be 60 over 60. Okay. Now, if you change this, this will be to multiply by 12. So this will be 12 over 60. And this will be to multiply by 5. So this will be 5 over 60. So remember, subtracting 12 and subtracting 5 is the same as subtracting 17. So, of course, 60 minus 17 will give you 43 over 60. Pause the video and answer questions 8 and 9 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 8 and 9, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you were asked here are 3 identical rectangles. Part of each rectangle has been shaded, okay? What fraction of the middle rectangle has been shaded? And of course, you can see it's 11/30. How do we know? We have 2/3 here, and we have 7/10. So if we want to work out the part that's not been shaded, we can simply do the equivalent fractions for 2/3. So we do 2/3, and we have 7/10. If we multiply that by 3, that would be 30. And we'll multiply this by 10 to make it 30. So you now have 20, all right, and 21. Am I doing this right? Yes. Yes, you multiply by 3 here, that will be 21. Okay, so that will be 21 and that will be 20. So you have 20 and then over 30, all right, and 21 over 30. Now, if you check carefully, you would see that for this one, you have, this one is a third, okay? If you look at the part that has been shaded, this is 1/3. But they're asking you, what fraction of the middle rectangle has been shaded? It's just a third. A third has been shaded. Okay, so that third is equivalent to 11/30. All right. Okay, here is question 9. Here, I don't want the video to be too long. It's about grouping. Okay, they say, how would you work out these calculations without a calculator? Okay, you can discuss this with your partner. All right, so grouping the calculations, thinking about the common denominator, having the lowest common multiple, and that will give you the solution. Well done for sticking around and for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take care of yourself and bye-bye.